On the 2nd of August 1990, Iraq, governed by Saddam Hussein, invaded neighboring Kuwait and fully occupied the country within 2 days. The invasion was primarily over disputes regarding Kuwait's alleged slant drilling in Iraq's Rumaila oil field, as well as to cancel Iraq's large debt to Kuwait from the recently ended Iran-Iraq War. After Iraq briefly occupied Kuwait under a rump puppet government known as the Republic of Kuwait, it split Kuwait's sovereign territory into the Saddamiyat al-Mitla district in the north, which was absorbed into Iraq's existing Basra Governorate, and the Kuwait Governorate in the south, which became Iraq's 19th Governorate. The Gulf War was an armed conflict between Iraq and a 42-country coalition led by the United States. The coalition's efforts against Iraq were carried out in 2 key phases. Operation Desert Shield, which marked the military buildup from August 1990 to January 1991. And Operation Desert Storm, which began with the aerial bombing campaign against Iraq on the 17th of January 1991 and came to a close with the American-led liberation of Kuwait on the 28th of February 1991. A Gulf War veteran, Daryl Keith Holton, was executed in Tennessee, convicted child murder. On the 30th of November 1997, former soldier Daryl Holton walked into a police station in Shelbyville, Tennessee, to report a homicide, ×4. He said that he had shot his children in his uncle's car repair garage. The police went to the garage and found the bodies. Holton, a Gulf War veteran, was 36 years old when he fatally shot his 3 young sons and their half-sister. Stephen Edward Holton, 12 years of age, Brent Holton 10 years old, Eric Holton 6 years, and Kayla Marie Holton 4 years old with a Chinese-made semi-automatic rifle on November 30, 1997, at the garage where he worked in Shelbyville, Tennessee. Holton was divorced, and his ex-wife had custody of the children. About an hour later, Holton turned himself in to the Shelbyville police. He told investigators that he had killed the children because families should stay together. A father should be with his children. He said he had also planned to kill his ex-wife and then himself but had changed his mind. Daryl Keith Holton married Crystal Holton in 1984, and they had 3 children. Due to Crystal deserting the children numerous times while Holton was away in the military, he took his leave from the military and divorced his wife in June 1992. Which left him with custody of the children. Crystal was impregnated by another man in late 1992 and started living with her ex-husband again afterward, with the child being born in June 1993. They separated again after Holton struck Crystal for her alcoholism, and this time, Crystal took custody of the children. In 1995, she called the police on him for threatening her and she got an order of protection against him in 1997. Crystal Holton had not allowed him to see all the children since September of that year. She had secured an order of protection after he assaulted her. The couple's marriage, unstable much of the time since they shared vows in the summer of 1984, had disintegrated. But his love for the children never waned, and Holton complained that his ex-wife had kept the youngsters from him. On November 30th, however, he persuaded her to let him keep them for the day. When he picked them up in Murfreesboro, Brent and Kayla handed him a drawing, according to investigators' notes. From Brent and Kayla, "I love you, Daddy," was scrawled on the drawing. After stopping at a McDonald's, the father drove the kids to Shelbyville, to the Blue Metal Building on North Jefferson. About 7:30 p.m., Holton said he called his two oldest children, Stephen and Brent, to the rear of the shop, telling the boys he had something to show them. At the front of the shop, Eric, who was hearing impaired, and Kayla played, unaware of the danger. Holton stood the younger boy directly behind his older brother. "Don't peek," he said. With Christmas less than a month away, perhaps the boys thought their father had purchased an early gift for them. Holton assumed the bent-knee firing position behind them, pointing the barrel of an SKS semi-automatic rifle, a Russian-made infantry carbine with an effective range of 4,000 feet, at Brent's back. When he pulled the trigger, the projectile punched through the boys' chests and they crumpled to the floor. Holton fired 2 other rounds to make sure they were dead. He hid their bodies beneath a tarp, then called the 2 youngest children. Holton told police he made Eric and Kayla shut their eyes as they stood in like fashion to their dead siblings, now hidden beneath the plastic just a few feet away. Holton again dropped to one knee. The medical examiner later said death was instantaneous. Police said he fired additional rounds to make sure Eric and Kayla were dead. They didn't suffer, Holton assured investigators. There was no enjoyment to it at all. After stacking the bodies and cleaning up, Holton turned on a police radio to make sure no one reported hearing the gunshots. Then he drove toward Murfreesboro, planning to kill his ex-wife, her boyfriend and other family members. The coup de grace would be him taking his life. Daryl Keith Holton was convicted by a jury in the Bedford County Circuit Court of 4 counts of first-degree premeditated murder. The same jury imposed a sentence of death for each count of murder. Daryl Keith Holton appeals both his convictions and sentences, presenting the following issues for our review. Whether the evidence adduced at trial is sufficient to support the jury's verdicts. Whether the statute setting forth the defense of insanity in Tennessee is violative of the United States Constitution in the context of a prosecution for first-degree premeditated murder. Whether under the United States Constitution inadequate acoustics in the courtroom during his trial denied the appellant his right to a fair trial. Whether under the United States and Tennessee Constitutions the imposition of a sentence of death violates a criminal defendant's fundamental right to life. Whether the evidence adduced during the guilt or innocence and sentencing phases of the appellant's trial supports the jury's imposition of sentences of death. And whether the Daryl Keith Holton sentences of death are comparatively disproportionate. Following a thorough review of the record and the parties' briefs, affirm the judgments of the trial court. On September 12, 2007, Daryl Keith Holton was executed by lethal injection. A former soldier convicted of killing his 3 sons and their half-sister with an assault rifle became the first inmate executed in the electric chair in Tennessee since 1960. Daryl Holton, 45, was pronounced dead at 1:25 a.m. Central Daylight Time Wednesday. Prison warden Ricky Bell asked Holton if he had any last words. He mumbled something inaudibly and Bell asked him to repeat what he said. Holton replied, "2 words, I do." Prison officials then placed a wet sponge and metal plate on Holton's head. During the process, Holton kept his eyes closed. As officials used a towel to wipe away water from the sponge, Holton said, "Don't worry about it." Holton chose the electric chair over the state's preferred execution method of lethal injection. Under Tennessee law, death row inmates can choose if their crimes were committed before 1999. Even though the state had not performed an electrocution in nearly 47 years, the execution occurred without any serious delays or mistakes. A black shroud was placed over Holton's head and a cable was connected to the bottom of the chair. Around 1:16 a.m. Central Daylight Time, a 20-second shock was administered. Holton's back straightened and his hips moved up out of the chair before he slumped back. After a 15-second pause, Holton was given a second shock that lasted 15 seconds. He was pronounced dead seconds later. After the execution, a statement was read on behalf of the mother of the children, Crystal Holton. "Today all the anger, hatred and a long time of nightmares can finally leave me. It will be replaced by all the sweet innocent wondrous love that only a child can give. And I am blessed that I have and will always have that love times 4. Daryl Holton came within a day of execution a year before his execution, before a federal appeals court issued a stay. He was among 4 death row inmates whose executions were postponed in that year, when Governor Phil Bredesen placed a 90-day death penalty moratorium. Bredesen had cited a number of problems with the state's execution guidelines, including a jumble of conflicting instructions that mixed lethal injection instructions with those for the electric chair. Before the execution, about 40 people, all death penalty opponents, gathered outside Riverbend Maximum Security Institution. Some sat in lawn chairs and others sipped coffee, while a few read Bible passages to themselves. One man sang while playing an acoustic guitar. A number of media witnesses who observed Holton's execution said that Holton appeared sleepy and sedated while being strapped into the chair. Corrections Department spokeswoman Dorinda Carter said Holton was not medically sedated in any way. She said he had been hyperventilating prior to being placed in the chair and was given a few minutes to catch his breath. Including a bobbing head, yawning, droopy eyelids and slurred speech, could be shown by a person who had just hyperventilated. Hyperventilation is a possible explanation for what people observed, he said. If you try to hyperventilate yourself, you might not be able to do it to the extent he did, but you can feel yourself getting a little bit lightheaded as a result of it. Thank you for watching.